Okay, let's talk about deflection. Deflection is something that happens when things are moving in a very specific direction, but something gets in the way and causes it to change direction. Typically in the context of topics that are not easy to address, particularly ones within the church, it seems like. Deflecting can take many different forms, like they ascribe motive, and they say that you're the one who's actually at fault. Or they will try to invalidate your experience as if you're the one who's overreacting. Or when you address it to them, they try to convince you that it's not actually their fault. Which, side note on that real quick, if nothing is your fault, then you're a liar. And people get in such a habit of deflecting that they tend to get away with it after a while by just wearing people down to a point where they just avoid having to address these things altogether. And I can't help but feel like that's the state at which some of these churches have arrived at now. Between the gaslighting, the excuses, playing the victim, trying to change the subject, change the narrative really, and make it seem like it's about something that it actually isn't. Downplaying it, making it seem like it's less of a big deal than it actually is.
Well, Job's friends betrayed him too.
The thing is about Job's friends here in this context. People that Job confided in for comfort during this time of hardship had little to no understanding of what he could possibly be experiencing or even why. But they tried to jump to their own conclusions based on limited information about why it could be the case. And they immediately pointed the finger at him and suggested that it was his fault because they didn't know any better. And it's not wrong for not knowing what you don't know, but it is wrong for not seeking out necessary information, especially in regards to the things that Job was having to deal with, and some of the things that our Christian brothers and sisters today have to deal with when they leave a ministry or are forced out of a ministry. But all that is redundant because we're not even really talking about just a casual friend. We are talking about a pastor who's speaking from a place of the authority he was given as a pastor, saying things that are not true about people that are serving under him. And we assume that just because he's the smart, discerning one, because he's been the one empowered or anointed, I guess is the word we like to use, to do these things, then we assume that it should be okay. But tend to not see past the facade that is right in front of us. You can't downplay their experience because you just want to assume that the higher ups are always right. It's not always like that. And we wonder why the folks on the outside of our church walls are making fun of what we do while we're inside them. It's food for thought. Not to mention, if enough of these stories turn out the same way concerning all these different people, how many times do you have to hear it before it's no longer a coincidence? How many times before you finally start to validate somebody's experience, instead of dismissing it on the pure basis that it concerns somebody that you've idolized in your own mind, somebody that you've put on a pedestal and somebody's knocking them down a couple pegs? How many times does the same story have to come from different people before you finally say, you know what? They might actually have a point. Let me make something abundantly clear. I wouldn't be speaking about this stuff at this point if I hadn't arrived at the acceptance stage of grief, okay? I've had enough time to go through this. Me and my wife have had these discussions about this stuff in very deep depth. We've had thorough discussions about this, and we still do sometimes. I wouldn't be saying these things if it didn't still matter to me and if it was gonna be from a place of nothing but pure malice. That's not what this is. My mission here, and I said this in the last video, if you'd watched the whole thing, you would know this, it is not to delegitimize any person, people group, or institution. It is simply to empower people to tell their stories, because stuff like this happens far too often. Just because it is common doesn't mean it's okay. I say that at the risk of sounding like a broken record, because I've said this plenty times before, but I will say it again, and again, and again, if I absolutely have to. If you ever want to talk, my DMs are always open. And if you have my number, that's a plus. Come directly to me if you really want to know what's happening. Don't just act like there's nothing going on, just because you're not seeing it. Just because this person doesn't act the same way around you as they have around me or somebody else. Your experience doesn't invalidate theirs. Your story doesn't mean that their story is false just because it didn't play out the same way yours did. If you can learn anything from the story of Job and his friends, is that maybe you should be careful about jumping to conclusions based on information you don't have. And trust me, you didn't think I was done, did you? I could say a lot more. And I will as I feel convicted to. These are conversations that need to be had, and no amount of deflection is going to keep me from speaking up. If it's not important to you, respectfully, butt out. Because I've had enough pastors and higher ups tell me at this point that they're not going to listen to me. If you're going to be one of those people, then leave room for those that are willing. Okay? That's all I ask. And now for those people that had those things to say, first of all, if you ever want to talk again, come to me directly, and I can walk you through everything that I'm discussing if you have any questions. And I hope you would have questions, instead of just assuming you know everything. Second of all, I forgive you.